Welcome back to another episode of Black Fly on the Wall. We have an amazing conversation centered around, is our culture worth saving? And I think this is a loaded question. I know it is. But I think it's a critical question to ask as it pertains to how we view culture and how we assess our culture, how we look at culture and say, is our culture where I want it to be? Has it ever been where you wanted it to be? And when it was where you wanted it to be, what type of things were happening within our culture that we need to replicate and duplicate now? So on the show, I got my boy Jamaal, Miss Cynthia, and Davril here with me to have this amazing conversation. Cynthia, how would you define culture?
I would say culture is just a way of living that, has been passed down from generation to generation. It can include everything. It can include arts. It can include fashion. It can include certain ways that you do, different things in your life, that your family, traditions, things of that nature. So it's just how is that passed down from generation to generation?
Jamaal, like taking it a step further, like looking at how the path that our culture is on now, how would you say, by experiencing our culture on a daily basis, how would you define Black culture?
For me, Black culture is trends, it's love, it's family, it's like Cynthia said, fashion, music, arts. It's a platform for people to perform and showcase and shed light on. Once again, like Cynthia said, on our history, on our tradition. So I think sometimes we do drop the ball in terms of the lack of or the ignorance in our own history and what we really come from. But sometimes we do shed a beautiful light, but I don't think we leverage our own culture. I think other cultures leverage our culture against us for their own sake, honestly.
Yeah. And right now, what would you say the main entity of our culture, or one of the biggest pillars of our culture, is right now?
What do you mean by entity? Like,
so if we look at culture as a company, what division or what department of that company is the most popping in our culture right now?
Arts and entertainment, in my opinion.
Yep.
And arts and entertainment could be sports, music, it's kind of live shows, but help me out, somebody.
I would say music is the forefront of culture.
There we go.
Definitely.
100%.
Because music is so powerful because of the vibrations that it puts off. That's why it's the forefront of our culture, and it always has been the forefront of many cultures. It's just the fact that the way we do it and the way we put it in the pot is essential to how people perceive culture. You get on TikTok, you see other cultures mimicking our culture and profiting off of our culture.
Right.
TikTok had a major issue with, individuals of other cultures getting more reels and more shares and making more money off of videos that are not related to their culture. So would you say that music and entertainment is providing a positive outlook on our culture, Davril?
Not at the present moment. I promise I was just thinking about this week. And
he lying.
Because I was just talking to Jamaal in the back about, a lot of folks may have heard of Charleston White.
Okay.
I say he's the villain that we didn't know we needed. This man is, he's telling what we already know, right?
He's the guy that does the interviews with Lide and all that?
Yeah.
Bro, he be talking.
He's telling the truth.
Sadly.
Because what we're seeing is the very music that, these young brothers are talking about when they first get out. Okay, we vibe with it. Okay, we understand. But once they get their bread up, they're still in that culture and we're not progressing and moving forward. So instead of spending money, of course, they've helped people along the way, but now that money's got to be used for their defense to try to stay up out of jail. But at the same time, those lyrics are having, sorry, I'm about to say the N-word. Cats are getting killed, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Niggas getting killed, all right, you know what I'm saying? Niggas going to jail. It's the same path, and this music is replicating that life for that sector of people. Now, we understand as entertainment, we ain't gonna rob nobody. We ain't gonna sell no drugs. We ain't do nothing crazy like that. But we understand the purpose of it.
But you know what? I question that because I wonder if we really understand like the power of music. And I think that as we age and mature in the lane and the level that we're on, we understand. But do these young kids
That's the thing I'm
that
saying.
don't have a father in the home,
They don't understand.
that don't have leadership and guidance, do they truly understand the consequences of going out and replicating the behaviors of rap music?
I'm gonna pose a quick question and something that I agree but also strongly disagree with. Do y'all believe in collective action?
Amazing question.
Sit with it and ponder on this. I don't, because I think we first have to do all the individual work to get to collective action.
I do. I think
a lot of us won't even, whether it's crack open a book or ask a question to understand the backstory to make a new story or his story or you know what I'm saying. So it's like, my opinion is the true quote unquote solution is
individual
you do
work.
exactly.
Yeah, I can echo that, because that's the same conversation we was having earlier about therapy. Is that it's more powerful whenever individuals go to therapy separately and then come together after they already healed, versus going to therapy together and trying to hash out personal problems in a group session. The group session is essentially for you and that person, you all as a unit, not for you to finally unpack your personal issues. And so a lot of times when you do things as a group, it's easy to be the person in the group project that don't do nothing and get all the credit.
There we go.
But it's like, how sustainable is that? Like, a big facet of my life is sustainability. How can something transcend over time? And so it's hard to question, like, collectively, I see your perspective on that. Is it healthy for us to push forward the culture in a positive way as a collective? At times, no, but also I'm a big proponent of unified consciousness. So the individuals that are on the same wavelength, that means they're on the same wavelength for a reason, and they're unified in the way that they think, and then we can then go out and push the agenda in the right way, because we're all bought in that particular thing.
Agreed.
You know,
because somebody has to push the agenda. I think that the reason why I'm in the field that I'm in is because storytelling matters. You know, how do you become aware of things? You don't know what you don't know. And so for so long, our stories have been gatekept.
Yes.
Like, we haven't had the access to tell our own stories or to tell them in the way that, you know, we should.
Absolutely.
And so at the end of the day, like, you're going to need to unify in some way, and you're going to have people that hold the torch and open those doors to start that collective action, to make sure, to sound the alarm, like, hey, this music hasn't been great, or, you know what I mean? Like, we need to have a more positive outlook so that it trickles down for other generations. We need to take ownership of our own stories and do it in the right way so that more people are aware of the proper things and the right things to do.
And I believe that each generation has to assess themselves and say, did I do everything I need to do to pass the torch down to the next one? Because right now, a lot of times what happens is when the OGs leave the neighborhood, the kids are running wild and free, and they're figuring it out on their own. And that happens a lot in the music business. And like in the music business, it just runs rampant, and then whatever gets trendy, that becomes a new wave. Versus how the Jay-Z's, the Rakims, the Big Daddy Kanes, all these individuals that were wordsmiths with their craft and that can spit phrases and bars and have you think about reading books or managing money and all these without even initiating conversations about killing or dealing drugs. It's like, how can the OGs also pull back the reins on our culture and push it in the right direction? Because they are the foundations and the pillars of that.
So this is my, not issue with that, but issue with our culture, is that for every Jay-Z, there are 1,000 little pumps. You get what I'm saying? So it's like we working, it's like push and pull, but it's more push. And that's push us away from what matters, a standard, a certain level of, really just a standard. Like, I feel like there's no real accountability or responsibility. I feel like as you grow older and more mature and you have a certain level of whatever it may be, Jay-Z, of course he does his part, clearly.
The Nas's.
Exactly. But it's like, it's people up, it's like, I look at it like it's levels. You got local, we got local, we got what, state, it's then the national, and I look at music like that in the same way. So it's like, all right, cool. What's your role? What's your role and what's your role? All right, cool. But what can you do right now, right here within this community that you have access to or that you've built?
Absolutely.
That you can continue to help push the next level and then the next
level. My mom
level.
always said, take care of your home first.
Exactly.
Before you try to go help somebody take
I'm
care
not
of
going to
theirs.
go take care of this woman when my wife or my girl or my mom are down bad.
Right.
It makes no sense. I'm working ass backwards.
Right.
So it's like me going to take care of the Caucasian or white community, whatever you want to call them, and I got 3 kids that clearly, while I got this hat on, investing in youth, like 3 kids down the street in my neighborhood that I grew up in
That don't have a father.
That need shoes.
Right, they need shoes.
Like, come on now, like your mom or your dad can't give you these shoes, but I'm good. I got 50 pair in the back. It's lightly worn or brand new that I can give you. But I'm over here asking you and you to do what we can go do 5 houses down for the person right next door to me.
Black, exactly.
Could I ask a question?
Go ahead.
As far as you're a recording artist, so of course, like you said, you have the one Jay-Z, you have 1,000 Lil Pumps, and 1,000 Lil Pumps gonna get that voice because their record label has enough money to give them to raise up their records or whatever, so they can be heard. So, in your eyes as a recording artist, how hard would it be, or how could we as a people come together to build up a record label, use the process they use, but to garner our own successes? Like you said earlier, our culture, we get bought out and then we get exploited. So how do we, on this side, build something up so we can get those 1,000 Lil Pumps, but we can have them help create a good message?
Collective ownership and people like Cynthia. You infiltrate, you educate, you evacuate. You get in, you learn what you need to learn from these major corporations, and you get out and bring it back to the hood.
The book, The Creep That Sat Next to the Door, have you read that?
Y'all know.
He got into the system, he infiltrated, and then he started his own regime and took it over.
Just like the guy that infiltrated the black man that infiltrated the Ku Klux Klan. He was so fair skinned that he was able to pose as a white man, but he went in there and learned about what they were doing, their culture, and was able to take down the Klan that was in his area. And so I love that. I love that method because it's actionable. It's something that you can actually do. I think a lot of times it's scary for us in our culture to go out on the whim, to try to go out on our own and create our own thing because the system is so comfortable. You get a paycheck every 2 weeks. You get your 401k plan. You get your match. So you get your health insurance. You get all that stuff. Going out on your own, you don't particularly get those things. And so nor do you have the confidence that you were trained or should have been trained to have as a child to go out and do that. And so it's a lot more challenging to do that. Cynthia, I was going to ask you, do you feel like how the current state of our culture is an impediment to our overall growth globally? So blacks and Africans from all diasporas, from Nigeria to Ghana to Dominican to the Caribbean to America, do you feel like the state of where our culture is now is an impediment to our overall progress as a people? A
little bit. I would say it's a twofold question because it goes back and forth. I think that how the world views Africa is a direct reflection on, the Black experience. And I think that, Black Americans, we get the media coverage, that I feel like we should give Africa a little bit more of, but we get that media coverage and sometimes it's provocative. Like it's the George Floyds, it's people getting shot and killed. It's, it's the negative side of things that goes out over a global scale. And it does affect how people view the Black experience.
Because you're downloading that.
Of course.
And so that's why I'm almost empathetic. The media is the pacifier to how perceptions and how things are valued and how things are valued within our culture. What people consistently see is what they see in you. So if they consistently see young Black men committing homicides, home invasions, all of those type of things in your area, even you as a Black person have to check yourself and you start feeling that emotionally. Right? Even myself, man, like I had an emotional experience a couple of weeks ago, just about I'm walking down the hallways in my hospital and I'm seeing all these young Black men in here over the 4th of July weekend in here with gunshot wounds. Several rooms, back to back to back. And I just had an emotional experience, and my barber told me, he was like, the reason why you're having an emotional experience is because you're attached to that. Like you're attached to your culture. Like you actually care about your culture, where it's at and where it's going. So it's natural to have that type of emotional feeling. And I'm like, man, it's like, that's why I love this platform that we have, is because I'm consistently trying to paint African Americans in a positive light. Right. I'm consistently trying to say, like, okay, African American men can have intelligent, high level conversations. They can have and speak without saying every 2 seconds. They can eloquently articulate themselves to be able to say something that they mean or how they feel. And so I believe that it's highly important for us to continue to push this culture. I believe we have we have a unsturdy foundation within our culture is because we don't know where we came from.
Bingo.
We don't know our history. So how can you go somewhere if you don't know where you came from?
Yeah.
And so like when it goes back to 200,000, 300,000 years, like most black kids nowadays in school, they're taught that their genesis is slavery. So if you look at your genesis as a lower human being or not even a half of human being, how does that resonate with how you value yourself as an individual?
I just want to say this too.
Like how can you be a king and a queen
I'm sorry.
of a little child, you know?
Just even in recent history though, you got to realize this is a part of history that's not really taught, is that after slavery, black people, we had all the skills.
Yep.
We had all the skills, so we sustained ourselves and our communities by our own hands.
Yep.
But then when we let that get bought out by either a company or how we let that happen, the point I'm trying to make is that today in 2022, our net worth as a people is the same as it was in 1960.
Wow.
Because the family got broken up.
Yep.
When the family got broken up, now the community is broken.
Yes.
Now that's why we have so much combative energy between men and women. You know, we're talking masculine energy, feminine energy, right? And in our songs, we talking crazy.
It comes from a legitimate place.
Very, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so we have to bring that family, do your work. Bring the family together.
Yes.
Bring the community together.
That is something that you can individually do.
You see what I'm saying? Bring the city together. You know what I mean? And so in any culture, you're gonna have people outliers. You're gonna have that, right? But that foundation has got to be brought back together. And I'm just saying, from a historical point, we have the tools necessary inside of us to bring it together.
Absolutely. I mean, even looking at it, like, you know, you have so many small kids, you know, black and, you know, African American young boys and girls that give themselves negative affirmations. I'm not good at math. I'm not good at reading. I can't read that well. How can't you read well? And your ancestors created linguistics. Your ancestors created arithmetic. Your ancestors created geometry, sacred geometry. They understood, they could read the stars 200,000 years ago. Did you know that? Most kids will say no. They believe that the genesis of their being started off in slavery. What if I told you that we built the pyramids? What if I told you that we created language? You know, the ability to speak to people who that does not speak the same language as you. We created all of those diasporas. And I believe that once we get back to teaching that critical information on where children comes from, that would shift their entire psyche. And then we'll see the culture.
You know what I realized, Aaron? I went back to Nigeria as an adult for the first time maybe 7 years ago, before Afro beats had really taken off, before all of that. And I'm driving around Lagos, Nigeria, and I'm seeing all these beautiful buildings. I'm seeing a beach. I'm seeing this sea of black people that are just beautiful and working hard, and the aesthetic of it, I can't even describe it. And I'm thinking to myself, my friends don't even know this exists. This was before like social media stories and things of that nature.
That's our Wakanda.
Yeah. I'm like, they don't even know this exists. I said, I'm gonna make stories about this. I'm gonna make next time I come, I'm doing a documentary. You know, because at the end of the day, that's been written out.
Absolutely.
Something along and it struck me as like, somebody doesn't want us to know how beautiful we are.
Yes.
Like somebody does not want us to know.
There is an actual plan and agenda
100%
to limit the positive reflection of Africans and African Americans within our culture. There's an actual agenda. And we have to recognize that, and we have to understand why. And I believe that once we understand why, and thank you for doing what you did, and you did an amazing job on that, and congratulations on your award. Tell us a little bit more about your documentary and the experience of that.
Yeah, so after that experience, about 3 years later, I created a documentary called Bad Africa, just talking about like the misconceptions of Africa. And I would ask people, this was a little bit before like Netflix started becoming global. I would ask people, I even asked my father, who is a Nigerian immigrant, came over about 30 years. I said, Dad, growing up, or like when you came over, were there any positive images of Africa on television? Like, did you ever see anything positive growing up in your 50 years? And he was like, no, baby, I didn't.
Wow.
And it's like, it's intentional. I did a man on the street interview style in New York. I would ask everybody who looked like me or you, like, have y'all, besides Netflix, had y'all seen anything beautiful about Nigeria or Africa or anything of that nature before Black Panther or anything like that? Nobody could answer that. It's intentional. The reason why you think it's just kids with flies on their face, you think it's huts. The reason why you'll travel to Europe or you'll travel to this other place before you even step foot in the motherland. It's because you probably don't think it's beautiful.
Wow.
But I'm going over there, I'm seeing Bentleys and Rolls Royces, buildings and oceans. And I'm like, nobody knows this exists. That is intentional.
Wow.
So it's like when I did the documentary, I just kind of covered. I went to Ghana, Ivory Coast, I went to Nigeria. I kind of just, showed people what it's like because nobody else is telling our story. Nobody else is. The only story that they want to tell is the negative story, and that your psyche impacts you.
Absolutely.
And how you view yourself.
It does.
As a Black person.
It does. And I think even to take it a step further, I believe that religion is a barrier to how we do not see ourselves within our culture. I believe that we must consistently assess and push our religious leaders, whether it's the Nation of Islam, whether it's Christianity, whether we have brothers and sisters in Buddhism, Hinduism, whatever it may be. I believe that there has to be accountability within the spiritual systems because they're the individuals that get the message to the people. Mm-hmm. So our people are heavy, heavy, heavy spiritual people. That's the genesis of us. That's our core. If you were the first, we are the first in the original being. And so we have an essential connection with unified consciousness, with God, with spirituality, with the universe. However you relate that in your personal experience. And I think it's essential for us as spiritual beings to push the spiritual message so that individuals can resonate with the message, right? I think that's what religion does. It creates an atmosphere where people can resonate with the message that they want to hear and that they want to receive. And so I wanted to ask is like religion and culture, how do those things mix and what areas of improvement can we improve in?
My 2 cents. I struggle with it because I know we all have heard the quote or people say, no, I'm not religious, but I'm spiritual. So it's like twofold to that as well. It's just like, for one, I even go back to how we identify. It's like we identify as Black. How? Mm-hmm. I'm not a color. Black is not a race or ethnic group. It's a color, literally. I'm African.
Right.
The end. Like I don't really understand that, but I don't know. Even for myself, I had to. Y'all familiar with Derek Grace?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So one of his biggest things he always preaches is unlearn and relearn. Yeah. So like I'm in that phase right now. So certain things I don't really want to go too deep into because I'm still learning. I don't want to just be blurting stuff out, and make it sound cool and make it sound okay. It's like nah, I'm still learning.
Absolutely.
I'm unlearning right now. I'm in my unlearning.
And that's gonna
phase
be a forever process.
Exactly. So I don't know. For me, it's just like let's start with the one thing how do you identify? Mm-hmm. That's a big thing right now.
And I think that's what I was kind of mentioning before, Dav. Mm-hmm. On a lot of times we have to make it spiritual. We have to resonate with the universe, and whenever you have to identify as simply I am. Mm-hmm. A lot of times it's tough to do that because we have so much pride as being a Black man, a Black woman. Right, that is the foundation to how we operate on a daily basis. How we get up, our swag, our ego, our pride, how we walk into the workplace, how we carry ourselves, the clothes we put on, the music we listen to, how we do our hair. Everything is related to us being a Black man or a Black woman. But in the spiritual realm of things, you just are.
Just are. Yeah.
You just are.
Yeah.
And whenever you retrain the mind, you dig up the unsturdy and the toxic foundation of all of these labels and attachments, and you actually just look at yourself as I am, it paints a completely different perspective of reality for you. Yeah. And I think that is an essential key, and I think that is a foundational tool, and I think that is something that we all can look at and say, how do I correlate or how do I look at myself? Do I only relate and look at myself as a Black woman? Do I only look at myself and correlate as a Black man? And once I detach myself from that, I'm that. That's already been established. I've been living that way my whole life. But how can I now move forward as a human being and say, I want to do human being work?
Right.
Yeah.
And include my culture within that as a priority.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. That's the thing, even though I'm involved with my church as well, that's one thing that I convey to the youth I talk to is, racism is real, but you serve a God that's bigger than that. You realize when the kings in the Bible, when they would win a war or a battle, they would cut a piece of the defeated king's robe and attach it to theirs, right? And we get longer and longer the more battles they won, right? And we know that the Bible says that we see the Lord high lifted up and his train fills the temple with glory, right? What we're saying is that Jesus, when we're saying in his train is full of everything he has defeated: racism, discrimination, slavery, death, pain, everything you have gone through. We're saying we have this man here who has defeated it. And look at the Trinity Road, is fill the temple with glory. His light is shining. You see what I'm saying? And so when you attach yourself to him and understand that he's inside of you and that he's the one who created you, that these issues, like you're saying, I am who? I am a child of God. Yeah, I'm black, but first, that's where I came from. You know what I'm saying? So we connect with that every day. And I think one of the questions we're going to talk about was like meditating or whatever. That's the point of it. In the daytime, in the morning, before you get busy, before you get to moving, you take that time, you calm yourself from whatever your troubles are, whatever your issues are. You take that time to still away and focus in on who you are. So now you can take on that day and win that day.
I love that. I do have a question though, because we do talk about racism, and some people may say, well, this is the reason why we're hindered, or this is the reason why, like when we go and say, hey, you know, white people, we feel like you're treating us a certain type of way, we don't like it, da 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 da. What do we want them to do? And then my other question is, do you feel as if we use it as an excuse, or do you feel it is our right to say, to wave the flag on racism?
I don't see that it's an excuse, because if I say that it's an excuse, that completely dismisses what all of our immediate ancestors over the last 30, 40, 50 years went through with the civil rights movement, the racism that they experienced post Jim Crow, and they actually experienced real racism. They actually was walking home and seeing young boys hung for being black. Like, those are realistic experiences. And I think, I don't want to say that that is an excuse, but I want to say that our grandparents and great-grandparents went through that. They went through that for you. You don't have to no longer wear that. If you really sit down and talk to your elders, they want you to move forward. They don't want you to harp on what happened to them or what happened to their grandparents. They want you to know the stories. They want you to learn from the stories, but they want you to apply it and move forward. So I think that we use that. Once we get to that level of consciousness, we do use that as an excuse, because we have to understand that we all gods and goddesses. We have every single tool that we can use to apply to achieve and get to the next level in life that we need to get to. Once we dig deep and we learn about the powers that be, applying principles, universal laws, whatever your religion is, whatever your religion says that you should or should not be doing, once you apply those things to your life, you will see that you have the power and you're the one in control. No matter what's going on outside the bubble. A lot of times, like I tell my fiance, like I put myself in a bubble. Like I put myself in an energy bubble. When I travel, I don't worry about getting sick, because I understand that I affirm to myself that I have supreme health and well-being. I command it, and that's what it is. Even no matter what's going on in the world with monkeypox and COVID and all these other things, I affirm and I command that I have supreme health and well-being. So nothing opposite of what I'm saying can happen to me. And so I believe that, knowing that whenever you have that type of power, when kids are taught that type of power, imagine if you was taught that as a 3-year-old, a 2-year-old, where you would be at 25, 30 years old. If we took all the children, all the black kids in the world, and put them in a room and really taught them universal principles and financial skills and communication skills and how to interact with people from other cultures, and being kind and and making sure that you live your life in peace. Imagine what the world would be.
I love that, mainly because just think about, as a parent. I'm not a parent, let's be clear, yet anyway.
Not yet.
Right. But just think about, it's like I'm gonna have that real full circle moment as a parent when my kids ask me, "But Daddy, why does boom 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 boom?" And it's like based on universal law and principle. It's like, damn, I've only taught my son to operate, on my daughter to operate in this way. On that frequency. It's like, you don't even understand this. So, but yeah,
you're gonna be creating a whole nother level of being, of consciousness.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that that is essential and key. That's why I always say, like, is our culture worth saving, or do we need a new foundation? And so, can we save what's in the house, but apply a new foundation? Imagine lifting the house up off the foundation, rebuilding the foundation of positivity, and putting the same house back on it, and how that new foundation may bring new energy, new ideas, new concepts, new positive ways of putting out the music that you want to put out, but making it be in a positive way. So it's like, is our culture worth saving? Or do we need a new foundation? Like, I often question that on a consistent basis. Every time I walk into the hospital, every time I get on Instagram and something from the shade room, something crazy pop up. It's like, damn, what you consistently see is like, okay, that is what goes into your subconscious. So I have to oftentimes put in the work to, all right, I just saw something crazy. Let me go on Earn Your Leisure page and see what they're doing. Let me go to the Pivot. Let me go to I Am Athlete. Let me go to all these platforms that put out positive images of Black people and say, and then I'm like, okay, we got it in us to be great.
Yeah.
And so I believe that we have to continue to redefine culture. We have to continue to affect, like you were saying, like apply those lessons at home. So if you got little cousins, you have nieces, nephews, it's important that you sit them down on the step and teach them about the things that you now know that can push your culture to the next level. I think like what you were saying, like the things that you've done, painting Africa in a positive light and showing the world that Africa is this beautiful, gorgeous country. You should come here, continent. I'm sorry, and I know better. So it's a beautiful continent. You mentioned Nigeria, and it's a beautiful continent that has amazing countries in it. You should travel and spend your money here, right? And it's like Dav, like you were saying with your church, and you passing on those messages to the little kids and teaching them analogies that they can apply to their lives and understand at their level of psyche. So I believe that this conversation definitely needs a part 2. It's a lot to unpack. Yeah, it is. Is our culture worth saving? I think even after having this amazing conversation, like I'm still resonating with the topic and the conversation. Like, wow, like this is something I have to continue to ponder and meditate on and get grounded on.
I agree.
Culture. So I think even after having this conversation, I need to go back and look what culture is.
I do too.
And like, dang, I need to go look up a new definition. So
good.
Is our culture worth saving? It's a good one.
Let's get it.
Get it.
Think that I want this, I like this, no, I love this. The feeling, I'm lovesick, can't help this, so selfish. You make me weak, oh yeah. Any day of the week, oh yeah. Heartbeat on repeat, oh yeah. Goes on and on and on and on. You make me weak, oh yeah. Any day of the week, oh yeah.